I'm on location at Carn Galver, the remnants of a pumping station tin mine. I'm in mining country. This is Tin Coast in the southwest United Kingdom. Really famous, and it's a UNESCO site that's protected now. Thank you for joining me. It's early July, it's 25 degrees, the weather is glorious. Hard rock breeds hard men. Men that can slip between the cracks in the earth and go deep below land or deep below sea in the search for valuable minerals. The bravery of the men that work the narrow lodes or cracks in the mines is staggering. They were pioneers of the time. To be in those extreme hazardous conditions daily in their place of work is just amazing, and all credit to them. Now the tin mining was passed down through generations, and they do say wherever there's a mine in the world, there will be some Cornish influence in that mine. They were absolutely pioneers. My camera in portrait mode on LowPho on a quick release plate. My monitor is also in portrait mode for ease of viewing, and my settings are f8, ISO 64 and 125th of a second. I've got a polarizer on my camera, but take a look at this result. Using the rule of thirds, polarizing filter to darken the sky, ISO 64, f8 and 80th of a second. Absolutely fantastic colours. Apologies, I have no idea what the chainsaw noise is, or strimmer or edge cutter. I don't know. I've no idea what that noise is, but it's so annoying. The civil engineering and the engineering back in the late 1800s is absolutely staggering. They were pioneers, absolute pioneers. They pushed the technologies of the time to the limits and beyond. And you know, to see this building in broken down is sad, really. And the granite blocks were thrown down the shafts to block off the shafts to make them safe. You know, all credit to the miners. They were extremely brave to explore those lodes and follow those small cracks within the rock strata, and drill away in the walls and following the veins, busting out the rock, and carting it all the way to the surface, and then to the crushing plants where the women and children broke the boulders down, or the rocks down. They load rocks, the mineral bearing rocks, and they crushed them and extracted through a particular process the element of tin and copper. And essentially, as a mineral or element, it is in powder form, and then the powder is then transported to the smelters where they melt it in a certain temperature and pour the metal then into an ingot, which is a mould. Pour the molten metal into a mould, let it solidify, break out the metal ingot, and then transport it potentially around the world. So it's not just drilling a deep hole or excavating a deep shaft and then following tunnels out underneath the ocean in this area. It's not just about that, it's the pumping oxygen into that hole, so to speak, into those mine shafts. You need oxygen or airflow, and obviously in this region, because it's underwater, some of it, there was issues with draining the shafts, so they had pumps pumping out the water as fast as they were pumping air into the shafts to keep the miners oxygenated. So the engineering of it, you know, building a drilling machine back then that could drill into the granite, you know, with hardened drill bits, so to speak. The development of all the drilling rigs in its own right was an absolute science. And then the machinery that were invented on the run, if you like, to crush the rock, and this is granite, so it's really, really hard to crush the rocks and the mineral bearing rocks such that they could have shaking tables to shake out the heavier elements, which were the tin and copper. So the heavier powders, if you like, were captured on shaker tables and then collected in powder form, ready to be shipped, I guess, to Penzance and other smelting areas. But I do understand that a lot of the smelting took place in South Wales. So here we are in the southwest tip of the United Kingdom. Just the logistics of transporting these blocks to build these iconic tin mines, just the logistics of that and the manhandling, etc., is staggering. Then the logistics of shipping the powders, the elements, the copper and the tin around the country. So a railway system needed to be invented, if you like, in order to transport the minerals to the factories that would do the smelting and changing the powder form into ingot form by process of heat. So all the, you know, you can see that in the mid 1800s, the learning curve and the developments in technologies were absolutely immense. You know, the learning curves were really steep, and the inventions that took place back then were marvellous. It's an industry that is actually rapidly being forgotten about because it's dangerous, it's hazardous, it's you know, extremely hard work, and because of that, I think the human race is potentially forgetting about our historical past, and it was the miners and the engineers back then that has put us where we are today. So if that didn't happen, we would not be here today with material science, etc. And then using the tin and copper, they then blended them together along with zinc and other elements to get your bronze bronze materials and brass materials, and amalgamations of these elements. So they were exploring the mineral properties and the material properties and developing materials scientifically. And that, again, that's put us where we are today, because bronze is a natural lubricating material, and so bronze was used for bearings. So the original bearings that we know, a ball bearing or a taper roller bearing of today, and the bearing technology today, which is an absolute science, started life with bronze, with tin. So tin and an amalgamation of the elements to get the bronze. And the bronze was then, you could cast bronze, for example, and then you could machine the bronze. So the machining of the materials was absolutely fantastic. They were super inventive people. So the bearing technology where we are today started life with tin in order to get the bronze, the bronze bearings, the slip bearings, big shaft bearings, big shields, big shells, were all manufactured with bronze. Back then the roller bearing was never invented. Okay, I've made it back to the car. The weather's been terrific. Hope I've given you an inspiration into the tin mining aspect of this region, and the civil engineering and the mechanical engineering advancements back in the late 1800s is magnificent. And I don't think there's enough publicity around the involvements and the materials technology and the pioneering engineering that happened back then. And I keep saying it, we are where we are today with materials that you take for granted, with automobiles that we take for granted, all stems from historical areas like this, when they were exploring tin. Where would the world be without tin, or even copper, for example? So, not many countries were mining for copper in the mid-1800s. So we pushed the boundaries and not only extracted the element copper, we then worked out how to use copper. And when you think about copper as an element, where it's used in our everyday lives, it's absolutely phenomenal. So, copper, tin in this region, very special indeed. So thanks again for watching. Until next time, look after yourselves, take care, bye for now.